Hello everyone, this is Lord Kurnion, and I just wanted to put up a video to talk about the list that I took to Colonial Carnage, kind of as a tournament intro sort of thing. This was a 2,500 point tournament, 5 rounds. There were 52 people signed up that showed up. It was using active Swedish comps, so basically the band was 8 to 14, just like the U.S. Masters. And for each point of comp difference, the person with the higher comp, which means the easier list, is awarded 100 victory points just starting off the bat. So to this, mono Khorne Daemons, since they don't have magic, it actually ends up scoring really well. So I really wanted to get my army done. So leading up to the tournament, I would spend about an hour or two a night just trying to get the bare minimum down in my army, and I was able to finish it. I was painting the night before the tournament in the hotel room while everyone was around me drinking. I was no, I need to get this done. But I was able to get the last couple shades on, or last couple coats on some of the models, able to qualify and able to get it to a tournament minimum, which is nice. So I'm going to walk through my list real quick. My pictures of my models. Some of them are not very impressive looking because, as I said, I was probably painting those ones in the hotel room the night before. But some of them I actually spent a lot of time on in the earlier part of the lead up while I was painting a couple hours a night. And so some of them are pretty good, so I just wanted to show those. There was a recommendation on a comment by Sigmar Hammer if we could get more close-ups. And since I really don't get them that often in a game, because I don't really want to slow things down, I thought I would put up a video with close-ups of my army now, so you basically know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to walk through my list real quick. So this is the list that I took. Starts off with this guy. All revolves around this guy. His wings fell off in transport home, so he did have wings, and they did stay on somehow the entire game, even though this is an old pewter model, and his wings are probably heavier than the body. Those things were impossible to get to stay up, but I was able to get it, and then they just broke off in transport. But he is a bloodthirster. He has a greater gift and a lesser gift. Say what you want about the daemonic gifts. Yeah, they are random, but I actually kind of like them in a lot of cases. I mean, the only thing I have against them is that I can't controllably give my Bloodthirster armor. Normally, he just has a 5-up save. Occasionally, I get lucky, and if I roll a 5 on the greater gift, he gets a 2-up armor save, which is nice when that happens, but it can't be relied upon. I kind of look at the greater gift and the lesser gift as, one of those I'm pretty much almost always going to default to a magical weapon. And the nice thing about it is I can cater it to what my opponent is. For example, if he has a whole lot of armor, I can decide to have my Bloodthirster take the no armor save sword. Or if he has a lot of high toughness stuff that has decent armor, I can instead take +2 strength sword. If there's a lot of infantry, I can take the Axe of Khorne, which is +3 attacks. And if he's an elf, I can take the Sword of Striking instead of the ASF sword. Sword of Striking +1 to hit. It's mathematically similar to hitting on 3s with reroll. Only obviously against elves, I wouldn't get reroll anyway since he's ASF. So that's kind of what I was looking at. I like that you can use it to cater, so I went with 1 greater, 1 lesser. A lot of people go with 2 greaters and a lesser, but having a lot of these, the comp starts to add up pretty quickly, and I wanted to keep my Bloodthirster both cheap points-wise in case I face cannons. I didn't want him getting cannoned off or stone throwered off turn 1 for it to be a huge points hit, since it's already such a big hit to the power of my army. He's a major killing force. I didn't want to award my opponent too many points for that, so I just kept him relatively cheap. He's 475 points, and he's minus, I think, 25 comp. It's not bad at all. Then I went with this guy. This is my Herald of Corn. He is not a BSB. He is on a Skull Throne, and he has the Hatred Locust. The Skull Throne gives hatred, gives his locust to every friendly Khorne unit within 6 inches of the throne. Which is pretty awesome. The throne itself is actually a beast in combat. Has the same stats as a Skull Cannon, which is similar to Gore Beast. Movement 7, D6 +1, Strength 6 impact hits, and it heals itself on when it does impact hits. It heals wounds on the chariot itself, which is pretty amazing. And then on top of that, it's giving hatred to everyone nearby. So he's there to support my infantry, support some other aspects of the army, and just kind of provide some hatred and some extra killing power, extra impact hits if I decide I need it. Just here's a couple close-ups. This was one of the models that I spent a good amount of time on. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Yeah. This guy ended up being pretty good. The rider on top was painted in the hotel room the night before, so he is significantly less impressive. And there it is, the throne itself. A lot of this was obviously converted from a war shrine kit, which if any of you haven't assembled a war shrine or bought one, and you're a big model painter, big model collector, definitely get a war shrine. This was one of the coolest models I've ever assembled and ever painted. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and really glad I was able to take the time to spend on this one, make it look pretty good. Then I move on to my core, keeping things pretty cheap in characters. So I have, for my core, I just filled it up with bloodletters. Bloodletters are pretty lightly comped in this. I have 18 bloodletters with full command and 23 bloodletters with full command. This is my solid infantry block. They're there basically on top of the fact that that my army's mono Khorne and they fit the theme. I actually really like bloodthirsters in Swedish comp because a lot of people in Swedish comp take Death Stars, and these guys all have Killing Blow, so they give Death Star something to think about. They charge into this. It's like, well, I'm only strength 4 and I'm Killing Blow, so you know, how much do you trust me to not roll a 6? Especially with the Hatred Locust right behind them, taking a charge against a character bus. These guys can actually be pretty scary for the opponent. So I was pretty happy with those. They actually ended up performing admirably, actually, the whole tournament. Then I have my Furies. These guys are converted from, obviously, Bloodletters, and they have Gargoyle Wings from the Tyranid line. I have 2 units of these. I have a unit of 7 marked Khorne and a unit of 8 marked Khorne. I like the Khorne mark on these guys because it gives them strength 5 on the charge, gives them a little bit more punch in combat, and gives them the power to beat faster elements like enemy fast cav and enemy chaff. If they charge in at strength 5, they're pretty much going to remove any sort of enemy chaff that they run into, which I really kind of like the versatility of that. Otherwise, they're both about 100 points even, and so they're not so expensive that I'm worried about it if I have to throw them away as a chaff unit to prevent the enemy from charging me. So they kind of served a dual role, and I was pretty happy with them throughout the tournament. And yeah, I'm decently happy with how they turned out. And that's just another close-up. Then I go to my Fleshhounds, 2x5 Fleshhounds. They're not ambushing because that's further comp. I also like to use them as a deployment drop. They're another faster element that I can use to chase down enemy chaff on the flanks and threaten some longer range combo charges. They can get around the flank or get around the corner pretty quickly. They're March 16, and they have 2 wounds each at strength and 2 attacks at strength 5. And they're pretty much immune to magic with MR3 and their Demonic 5-up ward save. So any magic that gets thrown at them, they're pretty much immune to, which is nice. Otherwise, yeah, these guys are just really, really tough in combat for a war beast unit. Then I have my Skull Cannons. These are another one of the units that I'm actually pretty proud of how it turned out. This is fully converted and kit bashed from 2 Chaos Chariots, basically fused together and being pulled by a spawn. The cannon on the back is made from basically random skull bits and weapons bits, glued on and green stuffed on to a piece of PVC pipe. And the 2 crew in the back. Yeah, I was pretty happy with the way that turned out. So I have, nice thing about this is in Swedish comp, because Khorne is so lightly comped, I can actually take 2 of these. So I have 2 skull cannons in the army. This kind of forms some of the meat of my ranged power, basically force people to come in. Use it to pick off important enemy elements like their war machines, stuff that threatens my Bloodthirster. Basically allow my Bloodthirster to have free reign of the table without having too much of a threat. In addition, they fight like a Gore Beast Chariot, basically. Like the War Shrine, it's D6 plus 1 strength 6 impact hits, which heals wounds on the chariot for any wound I do, which is pretty impressive. 3-up armor save, 5-up ward. These guys are pretty ridiculous in combat. So in most games I actually use them. In almost every game they charged at least once, providing impact hits and providing a lot of kills to support my Bloodletter block in combat and make them make it a little bit more sure thing that I win combat there. And then finally, my last rare choice, I have a Soul Grinder marked Khorne with a claw and a flame template. This guy is a utility type unit. He has the claw to go against low initiative enemy monsters or even high initiative enemy characters. I mean, 6 is a 6, it always fails. If he gets caught in the claw, I auto hit with attacks, and I can then decide to do a solo attack that is strength 10 and does d6 wounds. It's pretty good. He's good at killing solo models. He's great against steam tanks. And on top of that, I gave him the flame template. Basically, he has a flame cannon. It's a strength 5 teardrop, which just shreds infantry. Absolutely shreds it. So I took that to kind of threaten big infantry blocks, which are much more common in Swedish comp. And he's just a utility thing. He was able to do a lot, actually, during the tournament. I was really happy with how he did. And I'm really glad I ended up taking him. So here's my total list written out in case you couldn't follow along. The Bloodthirster, Greater, Lesser, Herald with the Hatred Locust and the Skull Throne, 23 Bloodletters, 18 Bloodletters, 2x5 Fleshhound, 7 Furies, 8 Furies, both marked Khorne, 2 Skull Cannons, and a Soul Grinder. In total, this scores a 13-6, which means at worst, if I face a 14, I'm awarding my opponent 40 victory points. At best, if I face an 8, which unfortunately didn't happen, but if I were to theoretically face an 8, I'd be getting 560 points just for showing up with a weaker army, which is pretty amazing. I mean, it's kind of crazy that I can get 2 Skull Cannons in here and still get just under a 14. So this was my list. This is what I took, and I'll start posting some battle reports. Probably the next one will come up, or the first one will come up in a couple of days. Lord Malasar was also at this tournament. He should be posting up an intro to his list in a couple of days, and we're going to try to alternate reports so you see my round 1, his round 1, in that order. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Any comments, questions about the models that I posted or the list that I took, please post it in the comments below. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks a lot, guys. See you soon.